ESPN 94.9, The Fan.
30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Welcome back into the George Plaster Show. No George today. I'm filling in for Plaz as he is on vacation, but we still got a loaded show today. We're going to be joined by Terry McCormick here in just a moment with his daily Titans update. We're going to talk some baseball with Danny Evans. MLB trade deadline closes at 5 today, so we'll get all we need to know about the biggest moves of the day. We'll talk a little college football with Phil Steele. Had a great interview with him earlier this week and dive into pretty much everything in terms of college football. So looking forward to that. But we do have Kelly Holcomb out in Murfreesboro. Kelly, what's going on?
What's up, young William? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Did you play any golf today?
No, I didn't play any golf today. I just normally play on Tuesdays, man, unless somebody asks me to do something. And then sometimes I play on Saturdays, but not really.
Okay. I was thinking I was trying to get Watson on the show tomorrow, and this is the first. Usually Watson's like, absolutely, I'll play, but he's actually playing golf tomorrow, so he can't.
He's golfing, yeah. And it's supposed to be nice tomorrow. It's not supposed to be hot like it is. I think it's only supposed to be in the low 80s tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit better tomorrow, but today, I mean, you had a little bit of a breeze. Like when you get a breeze, it's like, man, now we feel like we're at the beach.
We're supposed to have some storms, I guess, but I hadn't seen any. Have y'all had storms down there?
We haven't had any, and now that I think of it, I got to check the radar to give a weather report, just like George. Right now, about 93 degrees. Tomorrow, like Kelly said, the high is supposed to be 82. Saturday, high of 84. Sunday, high of 82. So there we go. Dipping
Nice.
into the
humidity's gone. Nights will be a little cooler. Nice.
I can't wait for that first feeling of fall. I don't know when we'll get it, but
I do too. I like fall, man. It's my favorite season is fall.
Oh, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like Titans football. Maybe not the best last couple of seasons for Titans football, but there's nothing like our daily Titans update with Terry McCormick. Terry, no practice today, right?
No practice today, but amazingly enough, got an email yesterday and a text saying that they had scheduled a practice for tomorrow when it was initially a day closed to the media. Instead, full padded practice. So one or two things is going on. They're either taking advantage of the cooler temperatures that you just reported on that are predicted, or they're not happy with something and they're going to go through the rigors of a full pad practice.
Well, it'll be interesting. So that I'm sure the reporters are loving that. We got to get out there. But Terry, second straight day you mentioned yesterday of struggles for Cam Ward, but you mentioned that he said he's not worried. Kelly, you talked about how it's early. There's not a ton to worry about. Is this weekend? You mentioned they're back at it tomorrow. Is that an opportunity for Cam Ward to get back out there and because look, I guess at this point he's proving the fans wrong, because obviously there's some fans that overreact to these types of things. But how do you look at this weekend and I guess tomorrow for Cam Ward in that offense?
Well, I think, sure, he needs to do better. He needs to start figuring some things out, even if it's just small baby steps. But I think this weekend is an opportunity for him to do some of that, maybe to show that he is progressing a little bit, that he's taking some strides, because, it's getting closer and closer to the start of, the regular season. And I think the big test in my mind is, what does he look like when they go down to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and they are, going against Todd Bowles and that relentless pressure that he brings? And then also, what is the defense going to look like when an experienced and solid quarterback like Baker Mayfield starts chucking the ball around to his guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and the like that he has? Certainly going to be a bigger test than what the Titans have seen on either side of the ball, in my opinion.
That's what I was going to get into. About a little over a week away from the joint practice in Tampa Bay. This is where it gets real, right? We've talked about it. And Kelly, I'm going to get your perspective on some of the preseason games in just a second. But What are these joint practices like for these players, Terry? Because we see fights all the times. We see a lot going on in these, but this is really where the coaches get a good look at the team.
Yeah, it really is. I think getting to see a different colored jersey, getting to see a different scheme maybe than what you're used to. And then the other thing is you can set up scenarios so that you can say, let's work on third down, or let's work on short yardage. Let's work on red zone, things like that. I'll say this, and I think it's going to be a real good measuring stick for Cam Ward and the offense, because last year, during the early portion of camp, I did not see any real red flags with this offense. I thought that it was solid for the most part. It wasn't spectacular. Occasionally you'd see something that was really nice. Occasionally you'd see a turnover or whatever. But the first little red flag that came out was when they held those joint practices with the Seahawks last year, and the first team offense struggled to move the football against Seattle's defense. And all of a sudden you're kind of going, maybe this team is not in the place we think it is, or that, we think that it ought to be. And so with Cam Ward already kind of struggling out of the gate against the Titans defense, it's very important that he starts taking some strides forward this weekend and then shows that he can hold his own against a legitimate defense in the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Terry, appreciate it. I know we've got the Hall of Fame game tonight. And when's the last time the Titans have played in that, right?
Yes, they played in it when the infamous fake punt.
Yes.
When Bruce Matthews was elected to the Hall of Fame, they got to play it.
That's right. That's right. We got that tonight, so enjoy that. At least the first quarter of it. That's what George always says.
All right. Thanks.
All right. That's Terry McCormick with his daily Titans update. He's got to get back out there tomorrow. Sounds like with some good weather, some better weather this weekend. Let's get to our updates, brought to you by Tennessee and Illinois, coming up later in December. It's a big matchup. You can log on to Ticketmaster.com if you want to get tickets to that, and we'll continue to promote that and look forward to that. But Kelly, we talked about the preseason game, the Hall of Fame game tonight. Obviously, it's one game, but and I don't know if you ever got to play in the Hall of Fame game, but is that how much of an honor is that, or does that even, like, right now, do you think the players, like, how do they look at playing in the Hall of Fame game?
I don't know. I never played in the Hall of Fame game, so I'm not sure. I know that I went up there a couple of years ago, and if you've never been, it's a pretty cool deal. It really is. I went up there. I got invited to Peyton's induction ceremony, and that was really cool. I mean, that stadium is full of people. It's amazing. They put that stadium up there, and all the guys that you see. Like I'm friends with Marvin Harrison and Edgerrin James. They were up there and they were watching, and Tom Brady was there watching Peyton. So it's amazing. It's amazing how many fans go to that. You can't imagine how many fans are there going to that. And they love, like the old Oakland Raiders back in the day. Somebody will get inducted from the Raiders, and you cannot believe the amount of Raider people that show up. And you cannot believe, like, it's amazing how many people love the game of football and love the past and the traditions of football. And I don't know. I think it would be kind of an honor to go there, but when it really boils down to it, Billy, it's just another preseason game, and you're trying not to get hurt. Which, if you go into it thinking that's when you do get hurt. So, I don't know, man. I would hate, me personally, I would hate to have another preseason game, because this will make 3 for these two teams.
Yeah,
and I think that's the way that goes. Is that not correct? Will they have 3 or just 2?
I thought it was 3 still.
Yeah. See, I don't know. Is everybody going to 2, or are they going to 3 this year?
I thought it was still 3.
It may be just 3. It may be they took. I thought they were going to 2, but man, this is early. Like it's like when I went up there with Peyton's deal. It was really hot.
3.
Okay, yeah, it was really hot, and there's so many people, and it's in the middle of the day, but people come out for that stuff, man. It's a pretty cool deal, and if you're out there listening, if you ever get a chance to go to Canton and go to the National Football League Hall of Fame, it's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, tonight it'll be good to get out there, see a little bit of football. 7:00 on NBC. Chargers and Lions in Canton, and stay tuned for a play on that game from George. We will reveal
from George. I was going to say not from you, from George.
No.
Huh?
No, I'm keeping it George, because every time I think I've made a few picks before, but if I'm wrong, he doesn't even count. He likes to not count them, but if I'm right, he does. So that's how
Yeah, he's that type of guy. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's that's how he operates. But we got that tonight. Kelly, we're going to get into all the baseball trade deadline stuff with Danny, and there's a lot. It's been a little bit of a quieter trade deadline, so I'll save some of that for Danny. But earlier today, John Robinson went on the Chasing Big Joe show on 102.5 and had I think it was an hour-long interview, and it was really interesting because they asked him about literally everything, and I didn't get to hear a ton of it. I think it'd be good to go back and listen to. But he ended up saying if he had a do-over, yeah, he would not have traded A.J. Brown. And obviously that's not a shock. But, I feel for him because, look, there's Titans. NFL fans are nuts. You know it. And, if you're a GM and you make one mistake, they're out to get you. And you know how it is as a quarterback and as a coach as well. But it's hard because he's such a nice guy and a good guy, and he meant well and loved the Titans. Grew up in Union City, Tennessee, but really it's really one big mistake that cost it for him and for the franchise.
Did he say, Billy? Did he say why he traded him?
He never really gave a good
because
example.
There's an inside scoop to that. I mean, one of the he's a guy that you build things around with his talent. And he could be a staple for your team for a lot of years. And there's a reason. Like, is the coach chattering in his ear saying this guy's something, he's a problem, or, we just can't count on it? Like, what went on? Because there's something going on behind closed doors where you make that trade.
Yeah, he said there was a lot of discussion that went into that decision. Ultimately, it was my responsibility to make the decision. If I had a mulligan, I'd probably take it. AJ went on to have a great run. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of where he's at and what he's been able to accomplish. If I had a do-over, I'd be an idiot to sit here and say, no, I'd do it again. No, you do it different. But we made the decision that we made, and the rest is what it is. But it was compounded by Traylon Burks, his release, and not being able to stay healthy. Say Traylon Burks was able to stay healthy and do at least half of what initially the Titans thought he could do when they drafted him. I think it's a little bit more manageable, but the fact that he hasn't really done anything, that makes it tougher.
But here's another thing. He's going to take the sword, but Mike Vrabel had a lot to do with that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's part of an organization, and he's in the Wall of Fame, the Hall of Fame in New England.
You're saying if Mike didn't want it done, he could have vetoed.
Absolutely. Like, you can lay on the sword all you want to, but if there was something that went on, let's just say that. And when you're part of an organization like the New England Patriots, when Bill Belichick was there, it's the mantra of do your job. And if something comes in conflict with that, I think Mike Vrabel had enough for whatever reason, because you just don't get rid of a talent like that without some underlying reason.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was messy, but I thought that was interesting. So if anybody has not heard that interview, go check it out over there, 102.5 The Game. That's a really good interview. I do want to get to a couple of baseball notes as we lead into Danny. The Mets have acquired Cedric Mullins in a trade from the Orioles. Mullins, 30 years old, center fielder. He's in a contract year. He's a versatile player. He's got speed, good defense. So that's honestly one of the bigger pickups of the trade deadline. The Yankees finalized a trade for Pirates closer David Bednar. As the Yankees are looking for some bullpen reinforcements, the Pirates will receive catching prospects Rafael Flores and Edglin Perez, and center fielder Brian Sanchez in the deal. So those are probably two of the bigger ones to get to as we lead into Danny. But Kelly, the trade deadline in baseball, it doesn't feel like there's as many big trades that have been made so far. But man, this has to be a time. We talked about the Emmanuel Clase situation yesterday. This has got to be a time for NFL, MLB, NHL players where you think you may get traded. You're sitting on eggshells for what, the last week or two. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like.
Yeah, it's when you start hearing that stuff, I can remember when I got traded, I started hearing that stuff and I'm like, what's going on? Like you don't know. And then they ended up getting a guy in the draft that they didn't think they were going to get. And I was kind of a insurance policy. And then when the guy that they didn't think they were going to get, they had me there, and I'd been in the league for a long time, and there was no need really to keep me, and you start hearing that stuff. But when that stuff happens, man, it changes your life. Like, I can't even explain it. Like, I remember going into Andy Reid's office and him telling me, and that was that morning, I think it was after practice. We'd had practice, and then they'd done the deal after practice. Mm-hmm. And then I go into his office, and then at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm gone. I'm heading to Minneapolis. It's just... People don't even understand how fast that stuff happens. Once you hear it and then it goes through, you're gone. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I real quick before we go to the break, I sent this to you over text the other day, but 450-pound Buccaneers rookie defensive tackle Desmond Watson is watching the team on the sidelines today as he is still not allowed to practice until he's in better shape.
Well, that's not only getting in shape for football, but that's too heavy for life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have all kind of health issues with that, and nobody wants a young man like he's been playing like that forever. But like, at some point, you have to lose some weight just for your cardiovascular health and your health and well-being overall. So I think that has a lot to do with his football playing, but it also has something to do with his health.
Yeah, just generally. So I know I shot you that. So we'll see what happens with him. We'll obviously be hearing about him potentially if he's able to be in the joint practice there with the Titans. But we'll get more into that. Coming up, though, Danny Evans. We're going to get into the trade deadline. We're going to dive into the biggest moves of today. Talk about the Braves a little bit, because a lot of the talk was that Marcell Ozuna was going to get traded. What happens with him? And then we also got the Speedway Classic at Bristol on Saturday night. We'll get into a little bit of that. But we'll have much more with Danny Evans right here on 94.9 The Fan.
The director is back. Hello again, everybody. It's the George Plaster Show. Hope you'll join me, Kelly Holcomb, and Billy Derrick Monday through Friday on 94.9 The Fan from 3 to 5 p.m. Talk sports with the Plaz. The George Plaster Show. Weekday afternoons at 3 on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville Sports Network.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. Attention, Big Orange Country. Tennessee and Illinois will square off Saturday, December the 6th at Bridgestone Arena. This is the rematch of a great college basketball game last season in Champaign that went right to the wire. And this one figures to be more of the same. Tickets are on sale now. You can grab your seats by going to Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com. Tennessee, Illinois. It's big time.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Pre-game at 5:20.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
.322 the time here in Nashville. Time now to talk baseball with our guy, Danny Evans, former Dodgers general manager. We got him with us now. Danny, how's it going?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Doing great. And I was telling Kelly today, and really the last week or so with a lot of these trades going down, hasn't felt like as much buzz in past years. Would you agree with that? And is there a reason why?
No, I disagree. I think it's been extremely active. I think there's been a lot of conversations. I think there's probably 18 to 20 teams that are vying for gigs, and there's 10 to 12 that are bad that are willing to move teams. And then there were a bunch of teams in between that were trying to figure out who they were. I think in the last 90 minutes, there's been a lot of stuff. I mean, Correa to the Astros is a huge trade that had to be done yesterday, given he waived his no trade clause. But I think in these last 90 minutes, we'll see 5 or 6 to 10 more deals. And I think, Billy, it's just because there's a lot of clubs that realize today that they have a very poor chance of getting in, and they would rather take the player who's closer to the big leagues than take a draft pick next July.
The Blue Jays made the first big move. They got Shane Bieber, who obviously we know what he can do, an all-star type guy. The Padres added Mason Miller from the A's. The Yankees got David Bednar from the Pirates. To me, a lot of these big-time arms could make impacts with the teams they're finishing off with this season. Is there a player or a move that you look at and go, this could really impact this team and shoot them up toward the playoffs?
Well, you mentioned the Bieber move. I have questions about that. He hasn't pitched all year. He's been hurt. He's coming off of Tommy John. He's rehabbing in the minor leagues. You really don't know who he is right now. He's made 4 or 5 starts. I'm sure they've had scouts see him, but that's a heck of a difficult situation when the guy hasn't been active all year. And if that's the only move they make, that's just not enough. I like Cincinnati's move for Hayes. I think he's a really good defensive third baseman. He's easily the best third baseman in baseball. I think in that ballpark, he could swing it and make a big difference. I like what the Padres did. They added a couple guys who have 3+ years of control. Miller's one of the most dominant arms in the game, and he's closing a game for a team in the Athletics who don't really need that guy. I also think that Suarez was a really good trade for the Mariners. Gives a bat behind Raleigh or in front of Raleigh, which I think is going to make a big, big change in that Seattle offense. I think teams have done a good job I think some teams haven't. The Yankees today have made a couple of nice moves, not great moves, but nice moves. But as I said last week, one of the problems when you acquire guys from bad clubs, I mean, Kelly, you had to do it. You can't just flip that switch and go from a difficult team where you're not winning to suddenly be in the middle of the microwave. A lot of guys can't handle that. And I think some of the guys who have been traded today are guys who have not performed in postseason play, and you just never know how they're going to be in a playoff race.
One guy that hasn't been traded, but we thought there was a shot, was Marcell Ozuna of the Braves. But 30 minutes ago, he's in the lineup tonight against the Reds, and that means most likely that he's not going to get traded unless they go back and make some lineup changes, which I don't think Brian Snitker would love to do that right now. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you anything about what the Braves are doing right now? We know the moves they've made for some pitchers, but with the shape they're in right now, they weren't necessarily one of the teams we were looking at.
Really good question. I think it shows you how tough it is to try to move a designated hitter. If you have a guy like Ozuna, like Soler, with the Angels, it's hard to move that guy to another club because that other club can't put him out in the field defensively. And as a result, he's going to suck up all the at-bats of a designated hitter. And some teams, some managers don't have that philosophy. They like to rotate. When a guy can't play the field, and he blatantly is not an outfielder anymore, although at one time he was a pretty darn good center fielder, I think what you have is a difficult market, probably a very limited market. Guys, there's a reason why teams are in postseason contention, and that's because they're a good club. They have good offense, good balance. They're usually a little lopsided, either pitching or hitting, but they're usually not looking for a center of the order bat because they already have that person, and that person is one of the reasons why they're en route to 85 to 100 wins. So Ozuna doesn't easily plug in. I think the market is the reason they haven't moved him. I do not think it's a matter of the Braves not wanting to move him.
To me, this year has been interesting for the Braves. Obviously, it's been the summer of George's discontent and Frank and Smyrna as well. But the All-Star game, obviously, there's attention on the organization. Obviously, Matt Olson didn't do great in the Derby. That would have been cool. But you also have this weekend, the Speedway Classic with the Braves and the Reds in Bristol. Danny, you can look at it one way and say, man, this could have been a great chance for the Braves this season to really shine and take another step. Whereas now, you're struggling, you're not making the playoffs. You had a chance with the All-Star game and the weekend that everything went on there. You have a huge chance this weekend, and George isn't going. He's told us. We've asked it. He says, "Ask me if I'm going." He's like, "I'm not." He said that a few times. So, how do you look at this season for them, and is it something they can bounce back from pretty easily, or do you look at it as, man, this could be tough?
Well, they had some really difficult setbacks early in the year. They didn't have Acuna. They didn't have Spencer Strider. They lost their whole rotation to injury. They're probably going to win somewhere between 72 and 75 games. Billy, Miami is ahead of them. Mm-hmm. The Nationals are 2 games behind them. They're closer to last place than they are to second. So I think one of the problems is they've got a great core, but when that core went down, who could compete? There's very few clubs who can compete. So a very disappointing year for them. Regarding Saturday, I am so looking forward to that, watching that game from Bristol. Major League Baseball does a phenomenal job staging those games. I mean, obviously the Field of Dreams games that we did was really cool. MLB and Brightview do a great job building the field. They're going to have the largest regular season attendance for a baseball game ever on Saturday. They've already eclipsed it. I was at the one in Los Angeles, and I want to say 2000, maybe 10, where there were 119,000 people in the LA Coliseum. I have a photo right here that's just unbelievable. But I think Major League Baseball has done a fabulous job. the two teams that are really close to the Speedway in Atlanta and the Reds, I think that's really a cool environment. But I think what they're going to do is stage a heck of a ball game. I mean, I can't wait to see the bullpen cars.
Yeah.
That's going to be one of the coolest things. But to build a field, Murray Cook, who does the fields for Major League Baseball, I think he outdid himself in this one. And I think Saturday night, I am not a NASCAR guy. I know, that's the wrong thing to say on a Nashville station, but I can't wait to see what that game looks like. And I think it's great for the game, but I also think it displays further how the Braves have really had a difficult season. And no one could have anticipated this. And now with Acuna down, that's a very tough team to, sink your teeth into and really sit and watch a game. But that's because that's what injuries do. But I think they're one of the bigger disappointments in baseball, and they would admit to that.
All right, last thing before we go to the break, and then I'll toss it to Kelly for the next segment. And then obviously we're going to get some calls. So if you want to call in, get them ready. We'll take some for Danny. Unfortunately, Ryne Sandberg passed away, class of 2005 Hall of Fame inductee. I obviously wasn't alive when he was playing, Danny, so I can't sit here and say I know a ton about him, but obviously heard about him. What will you remember most about him?
Got to know him pretty darn good, Billy. Same town, same city. Got to know him pretty well. He's a spectacular human being. He was a dominant defensive player, a flawless fundamental player. Unbelievable show up, post, battled, great competitor, better teammate, beloved by people around him. Absolutely squeaky clean character, fabulous competitor, terrific offensive player, came up as an all fields guy. He was a shortstop with the Phillies. They moved him over to second base in Chicago, had Larry Boa with him, a veteran Gold Glove shortstop, and Sandberg's manager, Jim Fry, asked him to start pulling the ball. And Sandberg, when he retired, had the most home runs of any second baseman in Major League history. But he had gloriously good hands, turned the double play. I loved him as a human being, just incredible person with character. And I think that's why you see the outpouring of grief in the baseball community. There's a lot of people like me that had a pretty quiet moment when we learned on Monday he had passed, because they don't make his type very often. This is a flawless individual who happened to be a really good baseball player at the same time.
Yeah, Tony in Nolensville, who, if I'm not mistaken, is a big Cubs fan, and I would expect a call from him. He called in and had a great tribute to him as well. So not only Cubs fans everywhere, but baseball fans everywhere will always remember Ryne Sandberg. But we're going to get to Kelly's questions. I know Kelly's got some, and then we'll take some of your calls at the top of the hour. So keep it right here with more from Danny Evans on 94.9 The Fan.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2025 season. Create a summer of memories at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, and more. Tickets are on sale now.
I trained my entire life to be the best. I was one of the fastest women in the entire country. But woke politics made me swim against a man, sharing the pool and the locker room. That's not just dangerous, it's degrading. Thank God for Marsha Blackburn. No one fights harder to protect us. Marsha Blackburn will always stand for strong women, because she's one of us.
I'm Marsha Blackburn, and I approve this message.
And we're back talking more baseball with Danny Evans. Kelly, what you got?
Danny, I know I ask you a lot of these questions every year when it comes to this subject about the trade deadline, but how stressful as a GM or anxiety-ridden as a GM was this time of year? Because, hey, like if you're in the race, you got to make good moves, and I'm sure you've had some buyer's remorse on some of these guys. So, like, how tense and how anxious were you about this time of year, or were you not really?
I'd be lying to you if I said there wasn't anxiety, Kelly. I think there is. I've worked in large markets my entire career, and with larger markets, candidly comes more stress, more anxiety, more expectations, more publicity. I think one of the concerns that you have this time of the year is you don't want to have false expectations. You don't want to lead people to believe that you're going to miraculously add to the ball club, because you can't put those hopes out there and not be able to deliver. It's a challenge to be able to balance 29 teams. Kelly, I'm going to say this in full candor. The regular season games get in the way during the deadline, because it's like you have to stay locked in, and you're the only person in the organization who is worried about the now and the future. But Kelly, here's the biggest challenge, and no one ever talks about this, and I'm just going to pull the curtain out. Many times it's the owner telling you what needs to be done. You have to cut payroll. You have to move this guy because we're not going to sign him. You have to get rid of this guy because I'm impatient and your rebuilding plan is not working. Sometimes it's you're fairly close to the postseason, I would say, derby, but you're not quite there. And for the first time all year, you admit that you're not going to win. And Kelly, like you, I mean, you post every day. You go in the office and your objective is to win. And when you trade 3 or 4 of your veteran players, you're basically throwing up a white flag and you're saying, we're not good enough. We're rebuilding. We're doing this. We're doing that. I'm not saying a total teardown, but Kelly, here's the problem. There's no safety net. You're the one who absorbs the body blows, and it's not your owner. Your owner is telling you what to do, is manipulating you because that's your boss. But at the same time, you can't throw your owner under the bus. Right. So you have to accept, the blame, and fans never know about prospects, and they shouldn't. That's not their world. So when you're trading A for B, all they know is everything about A. They don't know B. Many times B becomes a really good player. But for you initially, that's like a lightning bolt right to your midsection. And, I've been on both sides. Luckily, Kelly won a lot more games than I lost. So I was usually the buyer on this day. But Kelly, the other thing is really weird. You learn a lot about your staff. You learn who's the quick thinker, who can juggle, who can handle a hard right turn, and I'll give you an example. Like if you're a club and you learn that Suarez or Bednar was traded. Okay, off the board, next. You can't dwell, you can't lament, oh, we should have done, it's too late, gone. Some people, and we all deal with people that can't do that. They're going to dwell on it. Well, when you've got 90 minutes before the deadline, that's not the time. So I think one of the challenges is kind of control alt deleting your staff with every move that includes something you didn't get done. And for whatever reason, Kelly, maybe their ask was too much. Maybe, and this is something no one ever talks about, maybe your doctor bagged the medical and said, no, we don't want this guy. And in football happens all the time. And in baseball, we're really careful not to expose that because it's the wrong thing to do. And with HEPA rules, there's all sorts of issues. But sometimes you got a deal and you're close and your doctor says, no chance. I'm not taking a chance on that shoulder. Because remember, Kelly, for the bad teams, the season's over in September, maybe mid-September, and they can fold up the tent. An injured guy will go and get surgery. If you're trying to win, you're playing into November, and that guy's got to stay healthy for 4 months. Some guys, you get their medical and you go, oh, no chance. The doc's saying no. Well, then you have to recalibrate, and sometimes that recalibration period is something that some people just can't manage.
So I asked you a couple of weeks ago about the draft and how informed the manager was about the draft. Like, you handled that, your scouts handled that. But this time of year, obviously with the trade stuff going on, and if you're a buyer and you're trying to get over the hump to maybe have a chance at a pennant and to get to the World Series, how involved are you and the manager together? Because I'm sure you go to him and say, hey, what do you need? You see and you understand what he needs, but like, you want to hear it from him. So how much are you talking to the manager during this time period?
Kelly, that is an awesome question. And look at how it differs from the draft. The draft is about the future. It's not about the now. And the manager's job is to manage the 25 team, not the 27 team. But the manager, when it comes to the deadline, is either going to lose a key player because the team's not playing very well, or he's trying to add somebody. And he's been involved. If you're a good personnel guy, I'd sit with you and I'd say, Kelly, what do you think we need? I have my own opinion. I want to hear from you and your coaches and the people around this club. Kelly, I used to even ask the broadcasters. I'd say, what do you're around this club every day. What do you think we need? How's the clubhouse? How's the leadership? That type of stuff. So Kelly, this time of the year, the manager not only knows what's going on, but sometimes he's told, hey, you can't throw so-and-so tonight. This happened 2 nights ago with Miller and the Athletics. They had a lead going into the 9th inning, and they were told in the dugout, do not use Miller. And the reason, Kelly, you don't want him to get hurt. You've already made the decision you're going to trade him. Your doctor or your club is going through some administrative stuff. You're going to move the guy. You don't want a line drive to come back. You don't want an injury. So sometimes you'll even say this. You'll say, in Suarez's case, the third baseman who was traded, he got hit on the hand on Saturday, maybe Sunday. He got held out for a game, and then he played. And in that case, if you're the GM, you either call or tell the manager, hey, we need to get him in the game. We need everybody to see he's healthy. And, I don't care if you were going to sit him. He needs to go. Sometimes, and Kelly, this is the part the fans never know, sometimes you'll come down mid-game to the dugout and you'll say, hey, we're really close on moving so-and-so. Stay away from him, out of the pen. There's three different trades going on. I think he's going. I don't want him to get hurt. Or you'll do this. You'll come down to the dugout and you'll say, hey, make sure so-and-so gets in. Their scout wants to see him before they make the deal. That's the type of stuff that goes on. And sometimes literally it's mid-game. I remember going down frequent times where you just go down and you're in the dugout talking to the manager and the pitching coach. And that's the part that the fans don't see. The people with the club are all dialed in because you just see things going on. Imagine, and you've been there from a player's perspective, And that's why I never like to see names come out from my side, because they have families, they have loved ones, they have friends, they have a life. All of a sudden, if your wife's pregnant or you've got kids or your family's in town or maybe your mom and dad's visiting and you're in trade discussions, it's so awkward. So this is a really tough time. And let's be honest, guys, what other profession would you be told that you are being traded to another team and, oh, they'd like you there tomorrow? I mean, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen to a stylist, to a plumber, to someone working at True Value, to someone working at CVS. That doesn't happen. And this is so bizarre. And everybody knows that you're the object of a trade discussion. I think for a player, 5 o'clock Central Time, there's a big breath of fresh air. But the problem, Kelly, is at 5:05, sometimes some trades suddenly occur. They were agreed upon. Somebody comes down in the clubhouse, and the look on everybody in the clubhouse is like, who's he going to? Who is he going to? And I always tried to do it as first class as I could. I realize this is their livelihood. It's a very short wick. But Kelly, here's the problem. You got to walk through people to get to that guy. It's really awkward. And this is when your professionalism, your dignity, it on cut day. It's ugly. It's real. Man, you got to do it the right way. And I think some people aren't good at it. I prided myself on learning from great people, and I feel I was really good at it.
It's funny you say that, because I just told Billy about the time I got traded, and I wasn't supposed to be there tomorrow. I was there that night. It's really crazy, Danny, because I went through practice, and I'd been hearing rumors that, they were able to get a young guy that they didn't think they were going to get. They traded for me kind of as an insurance policy, and they ended up getting him in the draft, and they had no idea that it's just the way that things fell. And I remember going through practice and then going to see, Andy Reid brought me into his office and say, hey, we're trading you to the Minnesota Vikings. I was in practice that morning at 2:00 in the afternoon. I was on a flight headed to Minneapolis. It's crazy. And people don't understand that.
And Kelly, is that the only time in your life that's ever happened? I mean, think about it. You don't do things like that in our lives. You just don't.
No.
I always compare it. You and your family are flying to Los Angeles for a family vacation. And at the airport, oh, by the way, you're actually going to New York. And by the way, all your stuff in your apartment, figure out a way to get it all worked out. And sure, the team pays for it, but who has to do it? One of your loved ones. It's not you. I did it. And when I went from the Cubs to the Dodgers early June of that year, I suddenly pick up and I go to LA. I have my whole world back in Chicago. I didn't really recalibrate till December. I don't really know how guys do it. Oh, and by the way, there's 40,000 people in the ballpark, and they're cheering like hell for you to get a hit. So there's no pressure on your first at bat, your first plate appearance. And that's the part that I wish people gravitated to a little bit more. You realize that from day one, you are a mercenary. Guys, that's not an easy task.
No, it is not. So my last question here, and I've been around you for a while on this on the podcast here, and I know you always take the high road, which is a good thing. I want to know, just for me, you heard what happened the other day in Philadelphia with Bryce Harper and with Rob Manfred. You heard what all was going on. What are your thoughts on all that? Because that seems like it could get ugly at some point. And George was talking about striking and all that. I hope that doesn't happen, but just what are your thoughts on all that about going forward with what they're thinking about doing? Because they're trying to make everything equal. You got the Dodgers spending all this money, or the Yankees always spending the money, and then you got the Marlins who have $85 million. There's no comparison. So I just want to know your thoughts on that and how it was handled.
I'll preface my comments saying that I think the decision-making and the philosophies and the execution of baseball moves are the reasons why clubs don't perform well. I do not believe it's as much as a basic agreement as some people claim. I think there's inept people running franchises. And as a result, they have the same opportunities as other clubs, but they fail miserably. And I think, no one ever points the finger back at the club operator or the owner, but I think frequently that's the problem. I think there are issues with the labor agreement, but there always are. Whether it's at Walmart, whether it's, Ace Hardware, there's always going to be problems there. In Manfred and in Harper, you have a couple really, I would say, highly just big personalities and people who aren't afraid, who are extroverted. And I think that's part of the reason they've been so great. Both of them have been great at what they do because of their personalities. I've known Bryce since he was 15 years old, maybe 14. They probably didn't want that type of thing to happen, but that sometimes is the end game when it comes to a high-spirited situation. I think the key, Kelly, is that we as a game need an agreement and need the game to continue to flourish. When you're negotiating and you're negotiating publicly, there are going to be some uncomfortable times. There's going to be some stuff caught on camera, some people making comments. I think the whole game would be best suited if people would just let the negotiators negotiate and get to a point where the game continues to thrive and we don't have any sort of a labor stoppage. I don't want to point the finger at anybody because I really don't know exactly what was discussed. But I think anytime you have people who are high-spirited people involved, you're going to have some confrontations. And I don't always think that's a bad thing, but I think it's never good for the game to air our laundry in public. And, no one's good at that, any of us in any situation. But I think this is one that it'll be better for everybody if we negotiate in the background and we get something done.
All right, we've got a lot of meat still on the bone, and I have a feeling somebody's going to call in regards to the Emmanuel Clase situation as well. If not, I want to touch on that with you too as well, Danny. But the phone lines are open now. We're going to get to stat of the day. That's a baseball one. What do you know? So Danny, Kelly will probably need your help on that one. But yes. I want to go ahead and open the phones at 615-553-0933. Again, that's 615-553-0933. The chat is open as well. Get the questions rolling for Danny. We'll talk more baseball and have a baseball stat of the day coming up right here on 94.9 The Fan.
Tonight, your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Pre-game at 5:20.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app. This fall, country music superstar Tim McGraw is hitting the stage live at the Pinnacle at Nashville Yards. For train ticks, rock the cradle, and it's all for a great cause. It's going to be an unforgettable night of music, fun, and giving back with proceeds supporting newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown.
And I like it, I love it, I want some more of it.
Don't miss it. Grab your tickets now at rockthecradlenashville.org. Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
I like it, I love it, I want some more of it.
Get ready to savor the legendary taste that's been tantalizing taste buds for almost a century. This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic hot chicken joint. For a limited time, grab a $25 gift card for half the price at 949thefan.com. Hurry before they're all gone. Treat yourself to the authentic Nashville hot chicken experience at Prince's Hot Chicken, where tradition meets flavor. Don't miss out. Visit 949thefan.com today to get a taste of Prince's Hot Chicken, Nashville's original hot chicken.
Extraordinary homes deserve remarkable appliances. At Electronic Express, we bring the best luxury appliance brands together, all in one place. Whether you need a sleek refrigerator, a state-of-the-art range, or a premium dishwasher, our expert team is here to help you make your home extraordinary. With fast delivery and professional installation, experience luxury made easy at Electronic Express and create a home that truly inspires.
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a superhero. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a drug addict.
Get to your kids before drugs do. Arm yourself with the facts. Get your free The Truth About Drugs booklet set today. Go to drugfreeworld.org.
This is the energy of the Acura TLX, the energy of 4, with available A-Spec Sport Appearance Package, and the energy of function. It doesn't just look fast, it is. The Acura TLX. This is the energy of innovation. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Experience the thrill at Gary Force Acura, proud sponsor of the Nashville Predators. GaryForceAcura.com.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics at TriStar Summit offers world-class orthopedic care. The doctors at their Hermitage location specialize in general orthopedics, sports medicine, and hip and knee pain and injuries. Get back to enjoying life sooner. Schedule your appointment online at tn.houston.com. Conveniently located in the TriStar Summit Medical Center in Hermitage, right off I-40. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
This summer, the Legends of the West invite you to the Buffaloville Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming. 5 museums come alive with timeless Western art, heroic tales, and native cultures. Experience live birds of prey, crackling chuck wagon dinners, and behind-the-scenes adventures. Just 50 miles from Yellowstone's East Gate, our doors open wide to explorers young and old. 1 ticket grants you 2 days, enough time to let curiosity lead the way. Visit centerofthewest.org.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike. The organization could present Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel as a better option to the rest of the world. But you know who they can't lie to? The guys in the locker room that see all those quarterbacks every single day. And if Shedeur Sanders proves to be the best option, Shedeur Sanders will be the week 1 quarterback. And from a talent standpoint, Shedeur Sanders has more talent in that quarterback room than anybody that's in there right now. Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. This is Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
You give me like a dry rub on a chicken wing, I'm good. You give me barbecue sauce and a chicken wing, I'm good. Ranch and blue cheese, nah, you can put that over there.
I didn't take it for you to like it dry, not your chicken wings.
It depends on who's making them, though. Now, my mother's making them. That's all you need.
Okay.
Maddie Coleman or Denise Coleman, my wife, are making them. That's all you need. You don't need extras.
Check out more from Freddie and Harry weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Laundry piling up? Make it easier with the latest washers and dryers from Electronic Express. We carry top brands like LG, Samsung, Speed Queen, Whirlpool, and GE. So whether you need an all-in-one unit, stacked unit, front load, or top load, we've got that. With free delivery, the guaranteed lowest prices, and up to 24 months free financing, upgrading your laundry room has never been easier. Find your perfect setup in-store or online, only at Electronic Express. We've got that.
Ponzi Law is the only injury law firm with the Crash Cam Network, capturing accident footage on highways across Middle Tennessee. Injured in an accident? Call Ponzi Law. We offer a no-fee guarantee, and for over 30 years, we've been helping injured people just like you. We've been voted best law firm multiple times. I'm Michael Ponzi. If you've been injured, call us today at 615-244-4321. Ponzi Law, justice for all.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We got a trade to report from Jeff Passan. The Padres have finalized a deal to acquire first baseman Ryan O'Hearn and outfielder Ramon Laureano from the Orioles, sources tell ESPN. So we'll try to keep you updated with any of the other moves going on. But first, Stat of the day brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to their website. That's applecollisioncenters.com. All right, no George, but we've got Danny, so that helps. Kelly, I'll be interested to see how you do here. With
I'm just giving it to Danny.
With Eugenio Suarez joining the Mariners, Seattle would be the second team in MLB history to enter August with 2 players on their squad having 35-plus home runs. Can you name the other team?
So the tough part of this is that the game has changed in that we start the season a lot earlier now than we did 40 years ago when we were starting the second week of April. So I've never been an August guy. I've been like the number of games. This is a tough one because I don't kind of think this way, but I think it's fascinating with Raleigh and Suarez Kelly, that ballpark is one of the toughest offensive parks in the game. And suddenly they have 2 of the best offensive players in baseball. You wouldn't think Seattle would have an offensive look, but they have in the last year. They're making a big ballpark play small. Wow. I wonder, is this the Yankees in 1961 with Maris and Mantle? That would be the only guess I have. I'd love to hear the fans, but I just don't think about August being a measuring stick. I just don't think that way, and that's okay because a lot of people do. But as a club operator, I never looked at August 1st any different than July 10th. It's just the second half of the season.
Billy, was it a long time ago? Was it a long time ago? Like it was a long time ago, so he's probably got it.
He does.
Yes. There you go, Maris and Mantle. There you
That's
go.
wild.
Yeah,
That is wild.
Well, Maris actually, Mantle was leading Maris, and then Mantle got hurt. It's one of the, and it's so sad that Roger Maris was such a great guy. People were rooting against Maris, and they wanted Mantle to beat the Babe in '61, which he eventually did. And they disliked him so much they threw an asterisk on Maris's 61 home runs because Babe was 60. And it's just like, come on. I mean, give me a break. The guy's a dude. Let him have his 61 home runs.
Ty comes up with the stat of the day every day. He said, "There's no stumping this man." I think
Not on baseball stuff. No.
No. Hey, I wanted to say something, guys, if you don't mind. There's a thing going on today in the last few days that I want our listeners to understand, and I want to share with you guys that is so unique to the season. And that is this: the motivation for making trades are not just to get your team better, but in 5 of the 6 divisions, you're trying to make sure you win your division and you're not a wild card. Because if you're the third division team or one of the 2 or 3 wild card teams, you aren't even assured of playing a home game. You have to win 2 out of 3 just to get in. And from a club operator standpoint, that is absolute chaos, and it's a really bad path to the World Series. What you need to do is you need to be one of the 2 finishers. So think about the Mets and the Phillies. Think about the Cubs and the Brewers. Think about the Blue Jays and the Yankees, Houston and the Mariners. All of these cases, they're trying to make sure they win the division. So the motivation is not as much to get in because those teams know they're going to get in. The motivation is to get in with a couple days off, reset your bullpen, have a couple home games. Guys, that's 10 to 15 million bucks for your team in terms of revenue for 2 home games. So as a result, I mean, that's a 20 to 30 million dollar windfall. That's why owners will go, yeah, Kelly, go ahead. Billy, go ahead. But if you don't have that first round, I mean, it's a different world. And for some club operators, they will overpay to make sure they win the division. That's why I think you saw the Phillies and Dombrowski chase the closer from the Twinkies and the Mets making the moves they're making. Because to me, the dynamic is we don't want to be a wild card team. We want to win the division.
That's interesting stuff. That is really cool. Okay, let's go to Eric. He's our first caller for Danny today. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. First of all, Dan, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
What's up, Eric? You got to be happy, Eric.
Oh, yeah, I do. First of all, I just wanted to say just a tremendous job that Terry Francona has done with his baseball team. I think a few days ago there were 6 games over 500, which was the highest they've been this season. And also, of course, I was happy that they continued to streak and not get swept. I was a little bit nervous with the Dodgers. I thought they were going to lose, but they came back and won in the 8th inning. So that streak is still going of not being swept by a single baseball team in a series this season. So I'm really thrilled with that. Just what he's done. I still don't think they're going to catch the Cubs or the Brewers, and I'm hoping they get in the wild card. I don't know if that's going to happen, but just the main thing is they can finish all 500. I still think they're probably a year or two away, but just real elated. But Danny, there are 2 main things about the Reds I wanted to talk about. The first thing, of course, is obviously the trades that they made, getting the third baseman from the Pirates and the pitcher that they got. Just what your thoughts on those 2 moves that they made. And the other thing, of course, this weekend they have the big 4-game series beginning tonight with the Atlanta Braves. And, of course, I guess it's Saturday. They have that big game at that track. And I heard, is it sold out?
No, they're still selling tickets.
Yep.
Oh, I wasn't sure if they were or not. But just about a game like that, that type of venue, your thoughts on that and about the future of possibly having games at a venue like that, a racetrack, and just what your thoughts are on the future of that. Guys, as always, good talk to you. Great talk to you. Y'all take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Eric.
Well, first of all, Eric, I think your team made a sneaky great trade. I love Hayes. He's a tremendous third baseman. I think you put him in that smaller ballpark in Cincinnati. I think he's going to resurface as a really good offensive player. He's already the best third baseman in the game. I think that was a hell of a good deal, and I think it's going to make their club better. I don't know if they've got enough to get into the wild card, but they're better today than they were 4 days ago. And Tito's part of the reason. The second thing, I'm the guy who brought the game to the Field of Dreams twice. So I am all over this. I love taking games in August and making them more fun. This is the dog days of summer. I know some of us on this panel kind of love exhibition football. One of us doesn't. And I love tuning in on a Saturday night, on a Thursday night, and watching a game that's different. And the audience numbers prove it. Our 2 Field of Dreams games were the 2 most watched regular season games in an 18-year period. You look at the Rickwood game last year. This game in Bristol is going to draw crazy good numbers. I don't think it'll get to the Field of Dreams games, but I think it's going to be close. And what I love about it, Eric, is just puts a different look on the game. And little things like the bullpen cars, I mean, that rocks. I think it's going to be awesome to have NASCAR bullpen cars. The fun thing for me is if you're a reliever, do you want to get in that car or are you going to just walk alongside of it? I mean, me, I'm all in. I put the helmet on. Let's go. But I think what's cool is this is a game that otherwise would just be another game on the schedule. Instead, it's going to have a huge audience. And I love when baseball does that. Baseball did a great job for us at the Field of Dreams. I think what you're going to see is just an elite game on Saturday night.
Well, and for the fans there's a ton of crossover between NASCAR and Cincinnati and Atlanta fans there. I look forward to more ideas like this, Danny, not just at Bristol, but like what the NHL has done with the Winter Classic, and maybe there's a new idea out there, not just at a racetrack. I mean, I don't know what it would be. I'm sure you've got some ideas, but that baseball does need more of that, I think.
Yeah, you'd have to pay for my ideas, Billy, but that's okay. But I think one of the fun things about baseball is we don't play on a symmetrical field. None of them are the same. So we can do it and do it well. Whereas other sports, they've got to have a 100-yard field. They've got to have, the right size rink size or court size. We love quirkiness. I mean, we played in the LA Coliseum. We played in the Polo Grounds. We played at the Field of Dreams. There's a lot of things that baseball does that makes it really unique. But I think from a TV perspective, I have some insight because I have some friends that have shown me some of the stuff. Saturday night at 6, you're going to want to be watching because it's really going to be cool.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to Tony in Nolensville. Tony, what's going on?
Hello, Danny, Kelly, and Billy, and it's always a pleasure talking to you, Danny. You know that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Cubbies, and in doing so, as I've mentioned earlier on this show to George and the guys, remorse of losing Sandberg. Rhino was a classic, and he was just a pure, great individual as a man, as a human being, and also was just a class act, played the game with grit, integrity, and just an ambassador, an icon, and legend for the game. I think you agree with that, correct?
Yeah, well said. And, Kelly's been in the clubhouse with people like that. They're few and far between, and they have the respect of their teammates and their peers in the game, too. And I think that's what we're seeing with Sandberg's passing.
True. And speaking of the Cubbies, they took it on the chin up in Milwaukee, salvaged a game yesterday, and both teams in their victory scored a lot of runs. Danny, next month, if the month is here now, August, tomorrow, the Brewers do a 5-game series set in Milwaukee. When's the last time you saw a 5-game series set?
Well, there's 6-game series in the minor leagues sometimes right now, but you don't see many of them. And you know what? I think, Tony, there's only 4 games left between the Cubbies and Milwaukee this year. They're in Chicago at Wrigley. That has become, in the last 20 years, just an elite rivalry. And it's all because Milwaukee went from the American League to the National League. There's only about 75 miles between the two ballparks. It's intense. They fill up the ballpark in Milwaukee. It's really a lot of fun. I think this is going to be a great race. I think the Mets-Phillies are going to be a great race. I think the Cubs and the Brewers are both going to get in. But I think what we're going to see in this last 45 minutes, I still think you're going to see the Cubs do something because the Cubs, I think, recognize now what I said a little while ago. They could easily be a wild card team. And that's not where you want to be given where they are as a franchise. They want to capture the division. And I think you're going to see a pretty competitive last 40 minutes of the trade deadline.
I got 2 more quick little things and I get off here. Number one, Danny, this is amazing. The other day in the Orioles game, Charlie Morton, who used to be with the Braves, and George would love this story now, Billy, Kelly. Charlie Morton, in his 18th or 19th season, was pitching to Will Wagner, whose dad, Bill Wagner, was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. And they played together, I think, back years ago. And it was ironic. Here's a pitcher now pitching to his former teammate's son in the same game. I thought that was pretty interesting. And Kelly, you'll love this. Last weekend, the Cubs were playing at the White Sox, and the Cubs took the series 2-1. However, Billy and Danny and Kelly, in unison, as both team bases fans, the White Sox and Cubs are all leaving the stadium, Comiskey Park. They in unison are hollering, "We hate the Packers. We hate the Packers." And it was rather funny and rather comical to hear 2 fan bases of the Chicago team come in unison, leaving the park, saying that and hollering it out. I thought it was pretty good. So, hey, guys, I'm going to leave you on that, but I thought that bring a little humor to it. But a good show as always. And I reported back to – I haven't reported yet to George, but Danny, I told him that I'd let him know how these cats were doing today. They're doing a hell of a good job.
Appreciate it.
Are they surprising you, Tony? Are they stepping up their game here?
They've stepped up. I tell you what, George, I'll say this about George. He better not stay on too long.
Tony's going to start enjoying this show too much.
Get in. Thank you, Danny. See you, buddy.
Tony, thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Hey, guys and audience. I grew up in Chicago, and I worked for both teams. I'm one of the rare people who worked for both teams. The hatred of the Packers is real, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it's real. And I think there's one thing the Cubs and White Sox fans agree on, and that is they hate the other team more than they love their team. So Chicago White Sox fans hate the Cubs. A friend of mine always says, I love the White Sox and whoever's playing the Cubs. And Cub fans don't like the White Sox. So what's really fun is, they're charter teams. These teams have been in the league since 1901. So as a result, these are generations of hatred. And I'm not a hater, but boy, did I feel it working for the two teams. Because, when I changed colors and I went to the north side, oh my God, so many people there. So you're really going to hate the White Sox now? And I said, well, I really, I'm not going to hate. You better hate them. I'm like, all right, I'll hate them. Let's go. And I think what's really fun is people in Chicago, because it's the only city that has two charter teams, they absolutely hate each other, but they conspire to bond together and despise, and I mean hate, the Packers. And that was in my family. It was hysterical. My dad would always say, oh, I can't stand Bart Starr. And I'm like, what do you got against Bart Starr? What did he do wrong? He only won a bunch of championships, right? But that's part of the love of sports. And it's just amazing sometimes.
Yeah, Kelly, I don't know if you have any friends or obviously probably not any family in Chicago, but I had some friends in Chicago and I went up and visited them, and I could see that too, Danny, how, they were all White Sox fans and they didn't necessarily live on the South Side, but they were all diehard White Sox fans, couldn't stand the Cubs, same thing, couldn't stand the Packers. But what's so interesting is the dynamic. Is it true that the Cubs fans are sort of the, George likes to say, thumb their nose at the White Sox, and the White Sox are the blue collar sort of. What is the dynamic there between the sort of the fabric of the fan bases?
The dynamic changed, and it changed with Sandberg's era, where the Cubs became more competitive. When they won in 2016, it elevated the bar. All of a sudden, they weren't the lovable Cubbies. Now they're expected to win. The most fun story I can tell you guys and the listeners is in 1984, the Cubs made the playoffs for the first time in my lifetime. And I'm with the White Sox. And I got first row tickets for their first playoff game. I grew up in Wrigley Field. I grew up 2 miles from the ballpark. I traded my first row tickets with a guy to sit in the bleachers that I grew up in just because I wanted to go back and be a fan again and sit in the bleachers and watch the ball game. This guy was looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Those seats are in the first row.
That's crazy.
And I said, dude, you don't get it. That's where I grew up. I want to be out there. So he said to me, you want money? I said, no, I want you to take the tickets and I want your bleacher seats. So I'm out there with a great friend, and my friend says, I can't believe you passed up those seats. And I said, passed them up? I had them. He goes, why would you do that? And I said, because this is where I want to be. And it was just one of those days. Well, the guy in front of me turns around in the third inning, and I was already fairly public as a White Sox decision maker. He turns around and he goes, you suck being out here in the bleachers. You're a White Sox guy. And I said, dude, I grew up 1.5 miles north of here. I'm a Cub fan. And he goes, I don't care. You work for the White Sox. You shouldn't be sitting out here. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is really fun. Loved it. I had so much fun.
That's awesome. All right, let's go to one more caller. Let's go to Mike in Melrose. Say hello to Danny Evans.
Good afternoon, Danny. Actually, it's Mike in Miami today. I told you last week I was coming down. Never been down to Arlington Stadium, and get to see the big Yankees are coming to town and the Astros.
Nice.
I love it. Tell your dad I said hi, Mike, if you would.
I will do that. Yeah. You still think Tampa Bay's going to make it over my Rangers? They've kind of been fading. The Rangers are kind of coming around.
I don't. I think Tampa Bay is. Yeah, I think Tampa Bay's thrown up the white flag in the last 10 days, Mike, and I think they're out, and I think their actions at the deadline are indicating they agree with that. I don't think they foresee themselves. I think they're retooling. I think they've made some really darn good trades, and I think they've impacted the playoff race with some good players. I think your Rangers are surging, and I still think Chris Young's going to do something at the deadline. I mean, I'm looking here, they're the wild card team if they ended today. So I think the Rangers have a better shot than they did 10 days ago.
You still there, Mike? I might have lost Mike. That's a shame. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened, but we do have an update here from Ty. The Red Sox and the Rangers, speaking of the Rangers, are in strong pursuit of Diamondback starter Merrill Kelly with 45 minutes left.
Arizona has made 2 major trades, and they're going to make this one. Merrill Kelly's a really good right-handed starting pitcher. I have been wondering where the Red Sox were in all this. You know, the Red Sox suddenly are in the midst of the race. They would be a wild card team if the season ended today, yet they really haven't done anything. So I think you're going to see a trade here. And if I'm the Red Sox or I'm the Rangers, I think Kelly and Cease, maybe Zach Gallen, are the starters that are out there right now. You better grab one of them because the American League just got a lot better with some of the moves that have been made the last few days.
Danny, can't thank you enough. Even despite George here, we didn't have the Braves level talk. I'm sure we've talking enough Braves so far, but really appreciate you coming on and joining us as always.
You guys rock. Great questions, and thanks to the listeners. And I still can't believe I got the Marison Mantle thing because, Billy, I was exactly 1 year old. I didn't see a whole lot of that season, okay?
That was impressive. That was good
Baseball
stuff.
aficionado you are. Wow.
I've been called much worse than that, Kelly, so I'll accept that. No problem. Have a good
Thanks,
day,
Danny.
guys. Enjoy.
See you, brother.
That's the great Danny Evans. Nobody better when it comes to talking baseball. Kelly, buckle up for this next interview here. We're going to be joined by Phil Steele. Got a chance to talk to him a couple of days ago. He's the man when it comes to previewing college football seasons. Been putting out a magazine for over 30 years. I get to everything. Vandy, Tennessee, SEC, Notre Dame, all kinds of different things with him. So stay tuned. Phil Steele coming up right here on 94.9 The Fan.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. Attention, Big Orange Country. Tennessee and Illinois will square off Saturday, December the 6th at Bridgestone Arena. This is the rematch of a great college basketball game last season in Champaign that went right to the wire. And this one figures to be more of the same. Tickets are on sale now. You can grab your seats by going to Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com. Tennessee, Illinois. It's big time. It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
Are you ready to begin? Trevecca Nazarene University. From calling to becoming.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
Welcome back in. 4:26, the time here in Nashville. Coming up, we've got Phil Steele. He's been producing the best college football magazine for over 30 years, and we're going to dive into all things college football with him. So let's kick it on over to our interview with Phil Steele. With a broad view of college football right now, obviously there's a ton going on. And this offseason, though, surprisingly, there's not as much expansion talk, not as much NIL portal buzz, and just everything that's been going on in terms of talking points before the seasons. Where do you look at college football in terms of a sport and just the entertainment value of the sport right now, despite all the ancillary things going on?
Yeah, and it's interesting, despite the rosters being changed over with NIL and paying for players and all the stuff that's going on right now. I think college football is still at its peak popularity-wise, and once the season rolls around, stadiums will be full, and the 12-team playoff seems to have added a little bit of excitement as well. More teams are in it later in the season, so I think college football, despite the NIL and despite the portal, is still in pretty good shape.
And for people that don't know, Phil, you've been in the magazine business for how long? How long you've been doing it?
This is the 31st year of the magazine, Billy. I started when I was 10, naturally.
That's awesome. I've been getting it these last several years, and I do want to ask on the magazine itself, how has it changed your ability to track transfer portal players, and obviously you have an online version that you will continue to update throughout the leading up to the season, and then even throughout the season. But this is probably a question you get a lot. But how has your work changed over the last really 5-6 years with the evolution of the portal?
Yeah, it's been huge, Billy. You can go back to 5 years ago. What I always do with the coaches, or always used to do with the coaches, was wait until spring practice was over, give them time to do their post-spring interviews with all the players, get them all straight, and then I would go over their roster with them. And I could go over some coaches' rosters with them in March because spring practice was over, and get rolling with it. Now with the transfer portal, the second transfer portal, I should say, ending at the end of April, I not only had to wait for their spring to be over, I had to wait for the portal to be closed. And then I could talk to the coaches. So now I'm trying to cram in 136 head coaches all in the month of May, which makes it almost impossible. And then you're going through and making all the changes and doing the rewrites and trying to push this thing out. We used to go to the press in May. Now we go the first week of June. And if they continue with the second transfer portal, I may have to go to the second week of June just to make sure we got it all straight. But the good news is when the magazine goes to the press, it's 5 weeks after the portal is closed. We basically have captured all the portal moves. So everybody that signed, the worst signing, has pretty much signed in those 5 weeks. So when you open up a magazine, the hard copy magazine, you're going to find 99% of the players are on the right page. When you open up the digital, that's updated all the way through September. We'll get those 1 or 2 players that slip through the cracks.
Phil, I want to start right here in Nashville with Vanderbilt. Last season was unbelievable. What they did, led by Diego Pavia and a slew of other former New Mexico State players. Obviously, Pavia returns after a big legal victory. Vanderbilt's going to try to see how many more victories on the field they can get with Pavia and company. I look at your experience chart. Number one in the SEC is Vanderbilt. I think people forget about that. How much can that carry them this season? Do you think there's a second act that Vanderbilt fans can be ready for with Pavia?
And after I talked to Coach Lee, I'm pumped up about this year's Vanderbilt team. And as we saw last year, knocking off number one Alabama, knocking off Auburn on the road in Jordan-Hare, a very tough place, knocking off Kentucky, Virginia Tech in the opener. This is a team that when they go on the field, they no longer hope to win. They expect to win, and I think that's a big difference. Having Pavia back, I think the key to last year, the fade down the stretch, losing the final 3 games, not only were they playing 3 really tough foes, but I think Pavia was not 100% healthy. He got banged up during the course of the year. If they can keep him healthier and let him continue to run late in the year, I think they're in great shape. I think you'll see a better running game with Sid Alexander taking the forefront. They've got one of the best tight ends in the country in Eli Stowers. As you mentioned, they're number one on my experience chart overall. This is a loaded team experience-wise, so I wouldn't put anything past Vanderbilt this year. Now, I didn't pick them high in the SEC. Naturally, nobody did. But after talking to Coach Lee, I think these guys go into every single game expecting to win, and that's a big plus for Vanderbilt.
When you look at Vanderbilt this season, how much of last season is replicable, per se? Because a lot of people, what the talking point is right now is that, the act is up, sort of. The jig is up for Pavia with this offense, and it's going to be tough for him to stay healthy once again. How replicable is maybe an upset over an Alabama type of team from last season for Vanderbilt this year?
Well, I think it'd be tougher against Bama because they upset them last year in the games at Alabama. But, other than that, I think we're going to see some upsets on the schedule. I think there'll be an underdog at Virginia Tech, be an underdog home against Missouri, home against Auburn, home against, well, it probably might be favored over Kentucky. But I think when you look at Vanderbilt, I expect upsets. I would expect 2 to 3 more upsets at least this year. I think when Pavia hits the field, his confidence just exudes, and the entire team buys in. And Coach Lee is a guy that, he made a statement a couple of years ago. He wants to have the best program in college football. This guy's not taking anything lightly. So I'm bullish on Vandy, and I think we will see some upsets.
All right, let's go over to Knoxville. Joey Aguilar comes in, and the first big name trade in college football with Nico Iamaleava going to UCLA. Obviously a wild situation for Tennessee, and we'll see how that affects them this season. The schedule is still fairly manageable, Phil. Could this team get to the playoff this season?
Yeah, I think the key is going to be Aguilar. If he can play like he did at App State 2 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago, he had 33 touchdown passes, just 10 interceptions. Last year, struggled a little bit, 23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. And keep in mind, he was in the App State offense. Then he went to the UCLA offense, and now he's got to learn his third offense here at Tennessee in a 1 year span. Sometimes players have to learn 2 offenses. He's had to learn 3. So that's going to be interesting. They also lose some talent. I mean, you look at Dylan Sampson, the all-time leading rusher in a season last year, top 3 receivers, 4 starting offensive linemen. There's some talent out the window overall. But I think Tennessee draws a favorable schedule when you look at it. The key games for them, one really key game is probably Oklahoma on November the 1st. If they can win that, they're in good shape. You look at the games they're going to be an underdog in. You're looking at Alabama and at Florida, but the Georgia game's another key one. So I think if they're going to make the playoffs, they probably have to get to 10 wins. That would mean a win over a Georgia or a Florida on the road and then knocking off Oklahoma. But all the rest of the games, I've got them favored. So I do think playoffs are a possibility. I didn't call for it in a magazine, though.
Phil, you take a look at the SEC. This is I say rare. A lot of seasons you may have a couple of teams at the top, but I mean, at least in my mind, you've got 4 up there that have a shot at winning the league, and maybe even more. Who knows how this season turns out? Obviously, you've got Georgia at number 1 in your forecast, Texas at 2, Alabama at 3, Oklahoma up there at 4. A lot of people high on what the Sooners were able to bring in on offense. How do you look at the top part of that SEC? Because Phil, it looks like it could shake out in a variety of different ways this season.
Yeah, it definitely could. And, in fact, I think the most talented team in the SEC this year might be Texas. Their question mark would be the offensive line with one starter back, and then how's Arch Manning going to do? But I think Arch Manning's going to do just fine. They might have the best defense in the country. Reason I didn't pick Texas number one, they have to play Georgia on the road. As we saw the last 2 years, they had a little trouble getting past Georgia, and they have to do that between the hedges. And then the other reason would be they have to play Florida in the swamp. So there might be a loss, maybe two, during the season. When you look at Alabama, they are absolutely loaded this year. Every single unit ranks in my top 10 in the front of the magazine, with the exception of quarterback. But I think Ty Simpson's going to come in, do well. He was my number 3 rated quarterback out of high school. Probably fits the system better than Jalen Moore did last year. Jalen Milroe did last year, excuse me. And they bring in Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator that helped Kalen DeBoer in his second year at Washington get to the national championship game. So I think they are a legitimate contender. But I went with Georgia number 1. And while this year's Georgia team may not be as experienced as some of the ones in the past, and also may have a higher percentage of freshmen and sophomores on the team, may not have the big names they've had in the past. The one thing I really like about Georgia is the way they develop players, and they've got a very talented squad, but also the schedule this year. And you look at last year, they had a pretty talented team, but they had to play Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss all on the road. They ended up losing 2 of those 3 games. Well, this year, their 3 toughest opponents are Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas, and they get all 3 of them at home. They have not lost between the hedges the last 5 years. In fact, just 1 loss the last 9 years. So I think at home, Georgia probably wins those games. And if that's the case, I've got them running the table and winning the SEC this year.
Something that we've talked a lot about on this show, Phil, is the quarterbacks in the league are not. There's a lot of talent, but there's a lot of unproven names at some big name schools. Whether it's Gunnar Stockton at Georgia, Arch Manning, relatively unproven at Texas, Ty Simpson, we haven't seen really much of him at all at Alabama. You've got Nussmeier, who's very proven at LSU. Marcel Reed, somewhat at A&M. Obviously a guy like a Norris Sellers is a guy that people are talking about. You've got it, Nussmeier as your first-team quarterback, Arch Manning as second-team, Sellers up there, and then John Mateer up there as well. How do you look at the quarterbacks this year in the SEC, Phil?
Super talented. And as you mentioned, some of the top teams have unproven ones, but I think by the end of the year, you're going to look at this group and just say, wow, that was quite a class of quarterbacks. Even a guy like John Mateer is coming in for Oklahoma. And, let me throw out Jackson Arnold for Auburn, for example. Now, Arnold wasn't spectacular last year when he played. Even got benched in the game. But keep in mind, last year, Oklahoma had 0 returning starters on the offensive line. They lost their top 5 receivers due to injury. So Jackson Arnold didn't have a great supporting cast last year. Now he's got one of the top set of receivers in the country, a top-notch offensive line. I think he'll have a much better year. And John Mateer is taking over an Oklahoma offense that now has a veteran offensive line and now has a veteran receiving core. All the injured players from last year, like Deion Burks, an NFL caliber receiver, are back. Plus they add to that mix. I think you're going to see Oklahoma have a much improved offense this year. So while there are question marks coming into the year, I think at the end of the year, you're going to look back and say, wow, what a class of quarterbacks. And I got to tell you, Billy, I live here in Cleveland. We're looking for a quarterback next year. I love this quarterback class that's going to be coming out in college football next year. So pretty excited about watching these guys.
Yeah, the Titans here in Nashville, we're looking for one. They got one in Cam Ward. Obviously, we've talked a lot about him. I want to go around the country a little bit here. Phil, you mentioned living in Cleveland, obviously Ohio State coming off a national title. What can we expect from the Buckeyes this season? What are they going to end up doing at quarterback, you think? And obviously still a ton of talent, but this is probably one of the seasons, an opportunity for Oregon, maybe some other Big Ten teams. Not to say Ohio State is going to slip too much, but this could be a window of opportunity for some teams outside of just Ohio State in the Big Ten.
Hey, last year's defending national champ Michigan lost 14 players the NFL draft. They were 6-5 heading to Columbus on their way to a potential losing season coming off the national championship. We're not going to see that kind of drop off with Ohio State for 2 reasons. Michigan played a tougher schedule last year than Ohio State faces this year, and Ohio State just has way too much talent that they keep bringing in. They've had almost unlimited pockets. And I mean, your quarterback, Julian Sand, was my number one rated quarterback coming out of high school. They had in C.J. Donaldson, a great core of running backs. They've got the best set of receivers in the country. While the offensive line is young, they've got enough guys with experience that they're talented. And defensively, a lot of top-notch players. So they did lose 14 players the NFL draft, but they get Texas at home. They get Penn State at home. Those and Michigan on the road, they could very well be favored in all 12 games this year. But with that said, I didn't pick them to win the Big Ten.
All right, a couple more here. I want to go Notre Dame. This is a tougher schedule for the Irish than it was last season. You got to go to Miami to kick off the season there on Sunday night. And then you got to bye, but then you got A&M. The first couple of games of this season for Notre Dame could really tell the story. They get a little bit of a break. You got to go to Arkansas. Obviously, some tougher road matchups that could be iffy down the road. But Phil, obviously, they lose Riley Leonard. They get back Jeremiah Love, who you love and everybody loves coming into this season. Offensive line shifting around, but what can we expect from the Irish? Could this be another playoff season for Marcus Freeman?
Yeah, I think it will be a playoff season for them. If they slip up once, it would be they'd still make it. I think if they slip up twice, they'd still get in. The USC game is going to be a tricky one. At Arkansas is going to be tricky, but I actually have Notre Dame favored in all 12 games. Now, defensively, there are no question marks. They have my number 3 defense in the country. You look at my number 4 rated defensive line, number 3 set of linebackers, and then top it off with the best secondary in the country. Dangerous on defense. The only question mark on this entire team is, of course, the quarterback. But CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie, and I believe Carr wins the job, has a tremendous supporting cast. I mean, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, Aeneas Williams, they've got a deep set of running backs. The offensive line got a couple NFL guys there in Shrouth and Jagasaw. So they are loaded up front, and I think the new quarterback will fare quite well. The Miami game is scary because Miami's got a lot of talent, but Notre Dame definitely gets back in the playoff. And when they do, they now have that playoff experience. They made it all the way to the national title game. And keep in mind, in the national title game last year, they were without their top defensive lineman and their top offensive lineman due to injuries. So if they could just stay healthy in the playoffs, they might have a shot at winning it all this year.
All right, last thing, Phil. I'm going to go creative here. Who's a team or two, maybe you can give me a couple, that not many people are talking about, but do you think could be an Indiana from last season that could make a run of the playoff and frustrate some teams and make some noise? Because that could be a theme moving forward. There could be an Indiana-type team every year. Who do you think could be that team this year?
Well, I don't think we're going to see quite an Indiana team. I mean, Indiana, I believe, was picked by the media dead last in the Big 12 or Big 10 last year. And they didn't surprise me. They were part of the reasons I won the magazine contest. I hadn't picked a lot higher than everybody else. But the two teams that I think would surprise if they made the playoff this year, I'm going to start with that Oklahoma team I talked about earlier. And since I already mentioned how their offensive line is much improved, receiving core much improved, they added in Jade Knott, who was a top running back in the Pac-12 2 years ago. And last year was banged up. He's back to 100% health. They had in John Mateer, quarterback from Washington State, Washington State's offensive coordinator, and Ben Arbuckle, one of the top defenses in the country. Last year, they only had 3 SEC home games. This year, they only have 3 true SEC road games. They get Michigan at home. I think you're going to see a completely different Oklahoma team. And they were just 6-7 last year. I give them an excellent shot at making the playoff. And then perhaps not well, let me throw out one to you that might surprise, because everybody's going to say Illinois, but Illinois was 10 wins last year, so that wouldn't really surprise anybody, especially with everything they have coming back. But keep your eyes on USC. When you look at USC last year, they were just 7-6. In fact, needed a bowl win to get to 7 wins. But if you go through their schedule, they actually were 5 plays away from being 11-0. I mean, the Michigan game, they gave up a long run late in the fourth quarter and then a 4th and goal conversion. The Penn State game, they led almost start to finish, lost it in overtime. The Maryland game, they're kicking the game clinching field goal, put them up by 9, gets blocked, returned to midfield. Maryland scores late. Washington, twice they got stopped in downs inside the 10-yard line. Heck, even the Notre Dame game, they gave up 2 99-yard return touchdowns. That's 2 14-point swings in one game, and they ended up losing by 14. Well, I think Lincoln Riley's got the best defense he's put on the field. Danton Lynn's a great defensive coordinator. Maeva really came on down the stretch. I think it'll be an outstanding QB this year. Watch out for USC. They could surprise quite a few folks and maybe even slip into the playoff.
I like that Jade Mayava kid a lot. He's a special player. Phil, appreciate you for taking the time. Real quick, let people know where they can find your magazine because they're running out of time to go buy them.
I appreciate that, Billy. You know, it's 360 pages. It's like getting 136 media guides rolled into one, 2 full pages on every team. We give you 2 full pages on Middle Tennessee, the same amount of coverage we give on Ohio State and Alabama. You could pick it up at 2 places, Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. So there's the only 2 brick and mortar stores. Don't waste your gas looking for it, but go to Barnes & Noble, go to Books A Million. All you have to do is open it up. You'll be overwhelmed with the information. You'll see it's got 3 to 4 times the amount of information anyone else. Now, you can also order it online at philsteele.com. And when you go to philsteele.com, I'm going to charge you a shipping charge. It costs to ship things, but we give you the digital magazine for free, and we update the digital all the way through September. So Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or philsteele.com. And by the way, we also have an FCS digital magazine out right now, which has 2 full pages on every FCS team. Head to philsteele.com to check that out.
Phil, can't thank you enough. Appreciate you for taking the time, and enjoy the rest of your coverage along with the college football season getting going. Appreciate it.
Sounds great, Billy. Great talking football with you today.
That is the great Phil Steele. Does a great job covering college football. We will react to some of what Phil Steele said. He'll get some of Kelly's thoughts on that interview and much more coming right up right here on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler. Attention, Big Orange Country. Tennessee and Illinois will square off Saturday, December the 6th at Bridgestone Arena. This is the rematch of a great college basketball game last season in Champaign that went right to the wire. And this one figures to be more of the same. Tickets are on sale now. You can grab your seats by going to Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com. Tennessee, Illinois. It's big time. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back on a little bit of a cooler Thursday here in Nashville, and we're talking a little college football. I had a great interview there with Phil Steele. Kelly, what'd you take from it? I thought it was interesting. He's high on Oklahoma. We talked about what they've brought in with John Mateer and his offensive coordinator from Washington State. He said I thought it was interesting. He said there's may not be another Indiana type team out there, but watch out for USC. And it feels like now more than ever, it's so unpredictable. Who knows? Maybe there is another Indiana that we're not even talking about.
What I took from that is it's amazing how knowledgeable that guy is about college football and how long he's been doing that. Because I can remember, I think I was in college and I can remember going to the bookstore and seeing Phil Steele magazine talking about all the schools. It's kind of amazing. And when he said he had the FCS schools in there too, that is, man, that's a lot of work, Billy. Can you imagine that, dude? Gathering all that information and trying to get in touch with coaches, and that's wild, man. And it was like the season that Oklahoma had last year, and I've talked about Jackson Arnold, and he likes where he is at Auburn, but I remember seeing that UT game last year, and he lost some guys around him, but there's nothing you can do about those big wide eyes that he had during that game. You knew that he was not ready for that game, and I know you gain experience each and every time you play, but like that's in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays and how they do. And USC, we all wondered why Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. And he goes to USC, and he's just they've been kind of he was nothing like he was in Oklahoma. He's been kind of subpar, but it was pretty interesting to hear about. Hey, they might have a shot. They're going to be better than they were last year. So, one of those storied programs in the United States, and over the long haul of college football, USC has always been a powerhouse. And when he talked about, hey, you might want to watch them this year because they might be back there. So I don't know. It was just it's cool listening to Phil Steele and how long he's been doing this stuff and just how much he knows about the game of college football. It's crazy.
It's wild, especially now with the portal. I mean, there's kids moving in and out, and he said he had to kind of scramble, this season particularly because of how much action there was. But I thought it was interesting his take on Tennessee. He said a lot of it does revolve around Joey Aguilar. But it's interesting how some people talk about Tennessee. The first guy you do mention most of the time is Joey Aguilar. But like we've talked about, that there's a battle going on. I mean, Joey Aguilar, he struggled last year. We talk about what he did a couple years ago at App State. But, Kelly, when a guy is coming off a tough year like that, even though we know what he can do from a couple years ago, you never know. You never know when you bring in a type of guy like that.
Well, we've talked about that guy, and I've told you I've seen him up close and personal. I saw him in the Sun Belt Championship game against Troy a couple of years ago, and he can throw the ball, but he does have a tendency to put the ball in tight spots sometimes and not make good decisions. And maybe that's what you saw the other day when they put the other kid in front of him for passing drills. You never know what's going on inside closed doors. And as a coaching staff, you think and you watch film and you like, we can get that out of him. We can work that out of him. But I was like, I've seen that so many times, Billy, and it's crazy how sometimes you think you know somebody until you get them under your offense and you watch them and you're with them all the time, and then you watch them in the film room, you watch them on the practice field, and it's like, I'm not sure, because that's the same thing they found out about Nico. Nico looked the part. He's a tall kid. He's very slender, but he gained a lot of weight. But, they thought, hey, I think this guy's the guy. And then they got him actually in live bullets into the actual game. And they're like, And I keep saying it. If he was better, they would not have let him go. They would have gone over all the earth trying to find money, and they would have fixed the problem. Even though his dad acted like he did, if he was good, he would still be at UT, I promise.
Yeah. Last thing on what Phil had talked about was Vanderbilt. And look, he's high on him, but most people we talk to and I've talked to still think it's a tough hill to climb to get to 7 or 8 wins and take the next step this season. What's the most important piece? Obviously, it's keeping Pavia healthy, but I mean, in your mind, Kelly, what has to happen for them to take that next step and go and make another upset like an Alabama? Because, like you've said, they're not going to sneak up on many other people.
No, I'm not sure. I think it's just be consistent every day and just try to get better every day. And they've got some transfers. Everybody's getting transfers now, and everybody's getting good players. You're not sure. Like I just said, you're not sure what you're going to get each and every year from these kids. You think you like them, you think you know them until you get them in the building, and then you're actually with them. You're around them all the time. But he's got to stay healthy. They've got to. I think he's got to take better care of himself, if you want me to be honest. Like I know he's this brawler type guy that wants to hit every play and wants to do all that. And that's why the guys rally around him. That's why they love him, because he's a leader that way. And they see him giving the effort. And when he's the quarterback of the team, they see that, then it steps their game up. And he's helped everybody, not only on the field with the players, but the coaching staff. They've got a sense of confidence about him, but he's got to take care of himself, because the offense that he runs is a tough offense. I was having brunch this morning with my college coach, and he was talking about the wishbone back in the day, and he was saying that he listened to a interview with Bruce Arians, and Bruce Arians said, if you run the wishbone right, it cannot be stopped. And that's kind of what they're running. It's not the wishbone deal, but they're running it's an option offense from the gun. And if you run it right, that's what snuck up on people. They didn't realize how good it was until they ask Alabama, until it actually was upon them, and then they couldn't stop it. Third down, they could not get them off the field. So they'll be prepared for that this year. But I think he's got to take better care of himself, because he is the key cog in that wheel. He's the key spoke, and if he gets hurt, I don't know where Vanderbilt goes from there.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't put it better. It's all on him. That's a lot of pressure, but he's the right guy for it, and they've got to keep him healthy, and we'll see what happens. But we'll also see what happens with Bet of the Day. See where George is going tonight to wrap things up. He's got to play tonight on the Hall of Fame game. We'll see what it is when we come back right here on 94.9 The Fan.
Tonight, your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series in Scranton-Wilkes-Barre. Pre-game at 5:20.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics at TriStar Summit offers world-class orthopedic care. The doctors at their Hermitage location specialize in general orthopedics, sports medicine, and hip and knee pain and injuries. Get back to enjoying life sooner. Schedule your appointment online at tn.houston.com. Conveniently located in the TriStar Summit Medical Center in Hermitage, right off I-40. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
This summer, the Legends of the West invite you to the Buffalo Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming. 5 museums come alive with timeless Western art, heroic tales, and native cultures. Experience live birds of prey, crackling chuck wagon dinners, and behind-the-scenes adventures. Just 50 miles from Yellowstone's East Gate, our doors open wide to explorers young and old. 1 ticket grants you 2 days, enough time to let curiosity lead the way. Visit centerofthewest.org.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Final segment on a Thursday. Time now for Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. We see where George is going tonight, but so what happened last night? As we take a look, it's a tough night. Had a Dodgers loss, had a Mariners loss. That's why he's
Ohtani,
not
man.
on
I was
today.
going to ask Danny about that. Like Ohtani, he struggled in the first inning, man. Then he kind of got injured, and Dave Roberts and the whole staff is kind of holding their breath. That's why I'm not sure that it's worth it for me. For him to pitch.
I'm with you on that because they have I know they are depleted on the mound, but man, you need him to stay healthy. I mean, you could say, hey, we need him on the mound, but don't you need him more at the plate? I mean,
I would think.
Yeah, that's tough. So George 0-2 last night, and here's where he's going tonight. First play, Hall of Fame game. He's taking the Chargers to cover 7.5 against the Lions tonight. So that's the first play. We had a question here from Bentley. What time does it start? Starts at 7 tonight. Not that Kelly cares about that. But
yeah, seriously, obvious. I mean, I'd rather watch the wall, see if it moved to watch a preseason game. I'll probably cut it over there for a second, but good gracious,
the first couple of drives, and he's also taken the over 27.5. So that's the play tonight for George. Also in baseball, Seattle minus 145 against Oakland. I've seen a lot of Seattle plays that George he picks a trend and sticks with it. I will say we haven't seen the bet against the White Sox type trend
That's
from last year. I
correct.
mean, that was
But
like
he's
every
going with
day.
Seattle. Seattle's hot.
Yeah, they are hot. They are hot. We talked about that stat of the day with Cal Raleigh as well as Eugenio Suarez as well. So we'll see what happens tonight. But Kelly, hope you have a good weekend, and
All right,
we'll
Billy, good job.
see you next week.
All right, buddy. See you.
All right, we'll see y'all next week. I will see you tomorrow right here on 94.9 The Fan.